You totally screwed up, Arnold. You totally failed the family and you've done all this stuff.
This is something that some people don't see. Is news.
The governor of California. What's this debated by President Obama and Mitt Romney? You've got to be able to look right into the screen and to communicate with the people. So, of course, they're going to want to hear from the candidates. How are they going to bring both of the parties together and compromise rather than getting stuck in the ideological quarters? This is Piers Morgan Together. Story tonight, D-Day debate day. It's just 24 hours away. President Obama and Mitt Romney are deep into their final debate preparations as the clock ticks down to the big event in Denver. Meanwhile, the surrogates are out on the campaign trail. Paul Ryan picking out the Romney in Iowa.
A handful of states will determine this outcome. A handful of states will determine which way our country
Can you turn it up a little bit?
So you not only have a huge responsibility, you have a tremendous opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, Michelle Obama's been
What?
stopping for her husband, the president, in Ohio.
What?
This election
Yeah,
will
what?
be even closer than the last one. That is the only guarantee. Understand that.
Against that backdrop, I sat down with a man who shocked the political establishment when he was elected governor of the biggest state in the Union. Arnold Schwarzenegger has always been bigger than life, but it all
Let me
came
get this
crashing
on
down. It
camera.
happened in a very big way. I first interviewed him in the early 90s, and since then he's had, of course, the end of his marriage to Maria Shriver and the end of his 2 terms as governor. He tells the story in
What are you doing?
graphic detail in his new book, Total Recall. And Arnold Schwarzenegger fills it out. Welcome. Thank you. I mean, try to imagine what it must have been like to be you for the last year. And the reason I imagine it is I saw you and Maria a few days before the balloon went up on this whole scandal. And you seemed very happy. I've talked to both of you, and I've interviewed you many times over the years. And then since then, your whole life completely changed. You know, I wouldn't use the phrase self-imploded, but it must have felt like that a few times. What has it been like to be you in the last year?
Well, you know, I always have been very successful in my professional life. I am, and that's what the book is about, Total Recall. It's about this extraordinary immigrant story, coming here with nothing and, you know, getting to the point where I am, you know, being successful in bodybuilding and being successful in films and being successful in the political arena. And also at the same time I had a extraordinary personal life where everything was perfect. And so all of a sudden, from one day to the next, the personal life totally crashed, and I wiped out everything, you know, that I had. I mean, the thing that I cherished the most was my personal life, was my marriage, it was my family. I always thought that it was one of my greatest accomplishments. And then all of a sudden that was gone when all this became public, with, you know, Mildred and Joseph and all that. And so now, you know, since that point, I've been struggling with that, and it has been very tough, because even though my professional life and my career and everything has continued, and I've made, you know, movies and all that since then, and speeches, and gotten very heavily involved in promoting the environment and so on. But, you know, nothing is the same anymore, because, you know, my personal life has been, you know, destroyed, and so now and destroyed because of stupidity, of bad decision making, and, you know, it was huge failure on my part, and it made a lot of people suffer because of that, and so that's all that is always on my mind.
Have you been taken aback by the extremity of some of the reaction? People treating you almost like a sort of mass murderer. You know, how dare you commit this hideous crime when actually you did what, you know, millions of men have done. I mean, I'm not excusing it, defending it, anything. I'm just trying to put it into some kind of context. The times you've been so battered by this. Have you felt it's been too much or not?
You know, I never tell the press what to write and what to
Is
say.
that the plasma?
I mean, they do what they do, and I do what I do. And, you know, I think that it is my doing. They didn't create the story. No one out there created the story. I created it.
I'll be back with weapons.
Now, I did not ever experience that severity that you just explained, but then again, you like to be a little bit over the top. That's okay.
And you're probably not reading half of it, right? I'd imagine.
I would say I don't read any of it. No.
Well, I've been through a divorce, been fired from a high-profile job back in Britain. So I've been through very difficult times in my life. And the old cliche, you find out who your real friends are, I found to be completely true. That some people ran for the hills on both occasions, others ran towards me to help when I least expected some of them to. How have you found it, and who's been the rocks, if you like, for you in this?
I think that there's a tremendous amount of people that have shown great support, and then there's a lot of people that have let me know that they're disappointed, and that's perfectly fine, including my children that were disappointed in that action, and inevitably my wife was very disappointed, so it's my fault. There's no one else to blame for. I wouldn't even begin to start pointing a finger at anybody, because the reality of it is that I created it. I created my career and all of this kind of things, and the relationship and all of this, but I also screwed up badly, and I take the full blame for it. And the key thing now is to kind of like, figure out of how do I build all this back, and how do I gain the trust of the children again, and have a good relationship with the kids, which is so important to me. I love my kids dearly, and I love Maria. I mean, I love Maria. She has been truly the only love that I've ever had, and that's what is so pitiful about it. It's one thing if you have a situation like that and you say, well, I was ready to get out of this situation anyway, out of this marriage, but that's not the case. She was the most perfect wife, and she was extraordinary.
You've hinted in some of the interviews you've given that you hope to get back in the that you just believe that from her side this may also be something that she may wish. Do you think there is a good chance you could get back together?
I cannot speak for Maria. She has to speak for herself, but I can only tell you that I hope that eventually we can rebuild the relationship and that we will be together as one family.
What people find most incomprehensible is that somebody as successful as you, somebody as rich as you, as politically motivated as you were at the time, would take such an extraordinary risk. But was it actually more complex? Was it that the risk you were taking seemed one of the safest risks you could take? That it was with somebody in your home who you could trust, who wouldn't tell anybody? Was it more that?
I would say that it makes no difference. I mean, it makes no difference what was going through my mind at that time. It doesn't clean up the mess. It doesn't soften the blow to my family. I mean, what I've done is just about the stupidest thing that any human being can do.
Did it feel like
the reality?
Did it feel like it at the time? Did you know what you were doing? Did you know
No, because you always think, you don't think about the consequences, no.
The book doesn't make clear whether this was a one-off or it happened more than once. It was a relationship. What was the reality of that?
I think the book goes into the details of the whole thing, and I think that people, when they read it, they will get an understanding of what the whole thing was about, and that I leave it at that, because I think that I have talked about it enough, and every time I do talk about it, it causes pain to my children, and all that, and I don't want to dwell on it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. I mean, I've got 4 kids, and if I was in your position and had written a book about it, I can't imagine it's easy. Your relationship with them, you've already said, has been very difficult since this. I can't imagine this process helps that. I mean, it does prompt the question, why did you go into that kind of detail in the book? Because you have got the kids there, they are going to read, they're going to see the interviews. It sort of compounds it slightly for them.
Yeah, first of all, the autobiography has been something that we have talked about for 20 years. Simon and Schuster, who I've done all my books with, always wanted me to do, after I wrote a successful book on bodybuilding called the Encyclopedia of Modern Bodybuilding, they wanted me to do the autobiography. And I, in the 90s, were doing like 2-3 movies a year, and I was just too busy to do that. And I also felt like I don't think my story is interesting enough. But after the governorship, I felt like that there is an interesting story. And this was before the scandal ever came out. We started talking again with Simon and Schuster, and kept going down that road. Maybe I should, after I'm finished with the governorship, write and sit down and write his autobiography. And I also had always difficult time to think back and to go back in my life, because I always was a person that was going forward, dreams, vision, go after it, and the next one and the next one and so on. And so I did it. I thought that now with the governorship there's an interesting story, and I started working at that. And the scandal. So there was now a choice that I had to make. Do I want to make this a book about the success story of my life, or do I want to go and really write about my life and write about all of the failures, all of the wrong decisions that I've made, and on a personal level and on a professional level, and also the success story. And I decided that I'm going to put all of it in a book and try to be as honest as possible about the good and the bad. And that's exactly what this is about. And also I have to tell you, if those questions don't come up now, and if this issue doesn't come out now, for instance with the book, it will come up when the next movie comes out. It will come out when the movie after that comes out. So at one point or the other, look, I always have been
And
a
the
person
other.
that faces the consequences. And I don't believe in running the other way. I don't believe in hiding. I don't believe in avoiding those questions and stuff like that. But at the same time, I would like to go and tell you every little minute detail. But because there is children out there, because there's a family, I don't want to go in further than that. I think that I've caused enough pain to them, which I feel terrible about.
Let's take a break. Come back and talk some politics. We've got the big debate coming up tomorrow. You've taken part in big debates in California as governor.
That's right.
I want to find out what your advice may be for Mitt Romney and Barack Obama.
But then you just gotta get to the man. I don't want to talk about.